Thrunite contacted me about doing a video on this flashlight. They did send this flashlight to me for free, but they don't have any say in what is put in this video. This is a BSS V4, cool white in color. I did not have a choice in what they sent me. I got this camo color. All right, we'll see what else is in here. I got some packaging. Manual, it's actually very short and easy to understand manual. There's not a whole lot of functionality. We also have a red filter, USB charging cable, micro USB style, a lanyard, a case, and a clip. I personally do not use clips, but there it is. It is only a single direction clip. This comes equipped with a striker bezel, which unscrews. I personally am not a huge fan of these, so I leave it unequipped. You can also put on the red light. It has a really interesting bluish looking, also reddish looking color of tint. And it does seem to knock down the brightness a lot as well. Another thing of note, notice I will critique as appropriate. I don't hold anything back. The bezel here is not anodized in the same pattern, nor is the red color filter. It's not anodized in camo either. I was looking on their website and it seems as if the bezel and the button are accent colors. Oh, and by the way, these are the different colors available. I did use it with the belt holster here for a while, and it doesn't have any Velcro except for obviously the closing lid there. And it's quite a huge strap there. So that's another thing of note. You cannot charge it while it's in the holster. We can also see here that it's a little bit crooked and off center and relatively deep. I haven't actually had any connectivity issues with the various micro USB cables that I have. But I feel this should be a USB-C port nowadays. This light has a really simple UI. The tail switch on the end goes straight to turbo, and that's it. That's all the tail switch on the end does. Although after you do the tail switch on the end, you cannot change the modes at all. It won't let you, it's locked out. There's 3 coarse modes of operation to the button on the side. A long press will get you into Firefly mode, and then shuts off. A normal press will get you into low, medium, high mode, in which case here you can hold the button and cycle between 3 different brightnesses. You can also double tap. This goes straight to turbo. And then there's also a triple tap, which is strobe. So that's it for the user interface, which is really simple. You can also lock out the button if you hold long press to go into Firefly mode, and then long press again. It doesn't actually indicate, but it should now be in lockout mode, and yeah, it doesn't do anything from either of the switches. So long press again to get out of that, which puts you back into Firefly mode. Another thing I've noticed, if you're going to laser etch an emblem, you should try to make an effort that it be centered on the switch. We can see here that it's crooked by a little bit. Another problem I had is some flashlights that I have, they disassemble. For example, here's a Jet Beam RRT01. It disassembles from the light end. This one, it wasn't immediately evident, and it's not actually in the directions either, which end unscrews. When I was disassembling it once, I must have reefed on it too much, and I took the wrong part apart. So, guess now we can see the innards of it. It did have a little bit of red loctite on it right there, so it shouldn't have been open-upable, but I did it anyways. Here is the tube on the inside that acts as a conductor for the tail switch, because tail switches, if you have a tail switch and a side switch, then you obviously need, not obviously, but you need another path of conductivity for the signal. So that goes in there. I wonder if it could be switched around. No, probably not. Here's the battery that comes with it. Yep, yeah, it's a battery. 18650 in size. All right, so let's put this back together. And I think I might have like kind of broken it when I took it apart on the wrong end. Oh, now it's gonna work on me. It was acting goofy previously. I think maybe because when I tightened this up, maybe the spring that was on the end of that tube was dislodged or something and it didn't want to be tightened up all the way. I had to back it off like a quarter turn. But now it seems to be working just fine. So, you know, something to be concerned with or aware of. And so I put it in Firefly mode right now. If I hit the tail switch, it should go straight to turbo. And you can also partially depress the turbo button on the tail switch without clicking for momentary action. I forgot to mention that in with the lanyard are a few more replacement parts. There's an extra battery cover, a tail switch, and then 2 O-rings. Oh, that was hiding out in there. So 2 extra battery covers. Not that I've had any problems with this coming off or coming out on its own. It's, you know, it's in there pretty good. You'd have to really reef on it to get it off. As for the waterproof rating, it is IPX8 2 meters, I believe. Yes, IPX8 2 meters. 1.5 meter impact resistance. So a lot of flashlights, if you put them in turbo or high, they will get too hot. And there's not enough mass or cooling to cool down the LED chip or the electronics or the battery. So it thermally throttles. Both high and turbo can only run for about 2 minutes before it gets too hot, at which point it goes down to a lesser output of around 600 lumens, which is a lumen output between high and medium. Now let's compare it to some of the other flashlights that I do have in my collection. And here's a banana for scale. All right, I'm gonna try to do this in a somewhat scientific manner. The IBC tote over there is 100 feet from the camera, and the chicken coop is 60 feet, and the corner of the hot tub here is about 20 feet. I'll set this chlorine here for something to shoot at. Here's a Thrunite BSS V4 on turbo. And we'll try the different modes, at least on this. All other flashlights will be tested on their highest or turbo. Here is Firefly mode, and we can't see anything. This is low mode, so we can quite easily see the corner of the hot tub, and less so the edge of the chicken coop, and we cannot see the IBC tote. Medium, much more visible now. Chicken coop can easily be seen. IBC tote is also easily seen. This is high mode. Obviously everything is easily seen. We can actually start seeing up further into the woods now, although not quite as far. Low, medium, high. Turbo. Here's a 4D cell mag light with a xenon bulb. And it does have different focus, so that's as far as you could get with it, as tight as it can. Let's spread it out about as wide as the BSS V4. So there's the chicken coop with one, there's a chicken coop with the other. There's the IBC tote, and there's the IBC tote again. And here's the Olight Warrior 3 compared to the BSS V4. So the BSS V4 has Pretty good spread, and the Olight Warrior is a lot tighter of a cone, so the Olight might be able to shoot. Yep, so the Olight shines further, but the BSS V4 shines a lot wider. And here I am out in the yard, shining them around so you guys can see what it looks like. And walking on the ground, both in turbo. On the right side I have the BSS V4. On the left side the Warrior 3. And now your left, my right still, is the BSS V4 and the Olight Warrior 3 on my left. Your right. Now we'll compare it with an Olight Archer. See, very different beam patterns, very diffused, very spotlighty, just as a comparison. This is a Surefire G2X. Very similar output, actually. I'm surprised. If you put these two up, I wouldn't really be able to tell the difference. On the left we have a Convoy S2, and on the right the BSS V4. Clearly much more white. The S2 that I have here with this LED is quite yellow in color. This is a Lumentop FW1A with the SBT 90.2 emitter, and then here is the BSS V4 on the right. Also very similar output lights. On the left we have a Jetbeam RRT01, a little bit more yellow. Not as bright, can't reach quite as far, can't spread quite as far either, but it is a smaller light. Here's a Sofern S11C, I believe it is. Probably half as bright or less. Less throw, less spread. Here's an Olight I1R2. You can easily see the hot tub, can barely see the chicken coop. Yeah, there's an IBC tote back there somewhere. And then here's the BSS V4. So obviously quite a difference, but there's a huge difference in size here. And this is the I1R2 EOS for comparison. Here's a Sofern Q8 Pro. It's a much, much larger flashlight. You can compare the two here. Obviously the Sofern on the left is quite a bit more powerful, but again, it's a much larger light. And here's a Convoy 4x18A versus a BSS V4. We can see the Convoy goes really far away up into the woods, but it's a very tight beam. The Thrunite BSS V4 is much more diffused, but again, the Convoy is a much larger light. And because I have it here, here's an Olight bulb on high, and here is the BSS V4 on low. Here I have selected from that testing lights that have comparable output. Also, I wanted to mention that, you know, this piece of junk archaic dinosaur here is just about useless compared to anything else in my box. I was surprised that the Surefire has as much output as any one of these, even though it's rated far less. So I'm not sure what that's about. It's also more expensive. The Lumentop FW1A with the SBT 90 is also more expensive, but a smaller light, a little bit less output, power output. But I still like the light that this puts out more. Now, comparing the Olight and the Thrunite. I don't know which one I would take. I quite frankly like both of them. I like that the tail switch on this goes straight to turbo. This one is, I mean, it's got some other modes in there. And the user interface is really simple. And it's smaller. You know, this is a 21700 light, and this is just an 18650 light. Also, you know, 18650 can take just about any 18650 cell, but it can't run high output on any old cell. For example, I'll show this one to you just because we're here and I have it. And this is just a cell that I salvaged out of a laptop. And you can see it's quite a bit shorter. But we can screw the cap on. And it acts really goofy because the cell just doesn't have enough output. So you try to put it in turbo mode and it, but we put the normal battery back in that it came with, and there, now it's back to normal. Let's see if it passes the rattle test. Nope, nothing. As for finding the button, it's actually really easy for me to find the button. And of course you can also hit the tail switch for immediate turbo. Compared to the Olight, which has a lot of facets, and it just takes a little bit more to find the button. This button is easier to find. You know, if I roll it, I'm not looking, I pick it up, oh, there's the button. I roll it again, I pick it up. Okay, that's the USB switch. So there's the button. I should also add that this striker bezel on the front, it does affect the shape of the light and block some of it. So you will have reduced spill on the sides when using this extremely unpleasant to touch bezel. Let's try the tail switch. Yep, works easy like that. Pressing it like that. That's a little bit of a squeeze, but my thumb is really wide, so it's maybe part of it. And hey, Thrunite, I have a little bit of constructive criticism for you. Number one is if you're supplying accessories to go on the light, they should probably match the anodizing pattern that you have on the light. I realize that this is green, but it's not even really the same color of green. Maybe parts of it. And then the bezel is also obviously a different color. Another thing is to pay attention to the alignment of all the parts. So like this label here is clocked a little bit off, and the ridges here are clocked, at least on the tail cap here, a little bit off from center. And then just put a little bit more thread locker in there so oafs like me don't open it incorrectly. Well, that's all, folks. I hope you've had as much fun as I did playing around with this flashlight and other flashlights. I love flashlights. They're so fun. I mean, they're torches. If you're in the UK, it's called a torch. And I want to thank Thrunite for sending this over. It is a decent piece of kit, and I will be adding this to my regular rotation of flashlights because it's just such a good size and quality of feel. It's, you know, it's solid, it's bright, it lasts for a long time, everything else. There's links for this flashlight and all the different variations of color. Not all of the variations of color may be available when you view this video, but all those links are in the description. I urge you to check them out. So head on over to Amazon with my link to see how much this actually costs, because I'm sure by the time I put this video up, the price might have changed. And yes, you do get a lot of bang for the buck for this. And there are many different use cases where this is a perfectly functional, valid light that I, again, do recommend. Also, Christmas is coming.
your brother or sister or mom or dad or grandparents or daughters or sons might want this too. ASMR.